Good afternoon. It's so good to see everybody today. You're in for a real treat today. I've not had a lot of time to spend with Rich today, but in the very short period of time I have, it is so clear to me what his genuine fondness is for the College of Law. And in the same vein, we cannot walk down the hallway without somebody stopping and giving him a gigantic hug and welcoming him back to the College of Law. So it's just been lovely, and that's what you all have to look forward to in the next 3 years. So many of you have had the opportunity to see his bio. As that bio indicated, he is the recipient of the Arents Award for Excellence in Financial Law. And this is SU's highest alumni award, which is incredibly significant. And there's no better alumnus who can provide you with insight and perspective at this time in your careers as you're thinking about what path that career will take and as you look at your choices and judge the opportunities that will be presented. When I first moved up here, people talked about alumnus who bleed orange, and Rich is a perfect example of that. His tie, number one, is orange and blue, and he's told me that the pinstripes on his suit are orange as well. He received his Bachelor of Science degree from SU, his JD with honors from SU, his Master's of Science from SU's Whitman School, and we will forgive him that LLM from BU. As you know, Rich is the Executive Vice President, General Tax Counsel, and Chief Veterans Officer for CBS. However, that was not his first job out of law school. Prior to joining CBS, Rich had a wide-ranging and a rich legal career. He served as a law clerk to Judge John Balio of the 4th Department. He worked as a certified public accountant and a tax lawyer for Ernst & Young, and he spent 2 years at General Electric as Vice President, Senior Tax Counsel, and Assistant Treasurer. He has demonstrated leadership and has contributed to his chosen field in a variety of ways. He's a member of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the New York Society of CPAs, where he serves on the Corporate and Partnership Taxation Committee. As a member of the New York State Bar Association, he serves on the Corporate Counsel Tax Policy and Mergers and Acquisition Committee. He's also a member of the American Association of Attorneys Certified Public Accountants and a faculty member for the Practicing Law Institute. In addition to the civilian work, he was a non-commissioned officer in the U.S. Army, where he served honorably as a member of the 75th Ranger Regiment of the 10th Mountain Division. Since that time, he has worked passionately for the rights of veterans. At CBS, he is responsible for all veteran-related initiatives. He was appointed by Congress to serve on the Advisory Committee on Veterans Employment, Training, and Employer Outreach. He sits on the boards of the Wounded Warrior Project and our very own Institute for Veterans and Military Families, among other boards. I'd like to welcome Rich and thank him very much for visiting with our 1L class today.
Margaret, thank you so much. Thank you. Can you guys hear me? Let me just say first that it is a tremendous honor to be here. Before I get to my prepared remarks, I just want to tell you that first and foremost that it is not far from my mind. 24 years ago, I was sitting exactly where you're sitting, and I think it's important in your life that you never forget where you come from. And I certainly don't. I have a great debt of gratitude to this wonderful place, Syracuse University, and especially the College of Law. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for the wonderful people who helped me. There's an old saying that everybody needs someone in their life to give them the courage to be what they're meant to be, and that is certainly true. That's always been the truth here at the College of Law. And I go a lot of places. I've been to a lot of places, in my 1,000 years ago, in my Army life and in my professional life today. I deal with a lot of people, and I can honestly say that the finest people that I know who exhibit the type of behavior, their humanity, it's here. It's on this campus. And though you be far from centers of commerce like New York City, I think there's no better place to study law And I'll just dive into it. Professor was so kind to offer an invitation to come speak, and I've really thought a lot about what I'd come here and talk to you guys about. There's a lot, as you know, there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's unsettled times. And so listen, I even get, every day you get, there's a lot of reasons to not have an optimistic attitude. But I thought a lot about what I'd come here and talk to you guys about. And, it's changed a couple of different times. So I hope the most important thing is for you not to lose faith in institutions, in people, in the law. And most importantly, don't lose faith in your own skills. And there's a lot, today's day and age, we allow ourselves to be defined by other people. You're here for a reason, because you're really good people, because you know who you are, and you know what you want to do. And being a lawyer is a very important thing. And, didn't start recently. You can go back and, if you read Shakespeare, who I'm not a fan of, by the way, because of the way he portrayed lawyers, as lyrical as he was. But it's a very important thing, and you should always remember that. There's a lot of maligning that goes on, but let me tell you this, that if it was not for lawyers, we would not have the rule of law. And without the rule of law, we wouldn't have civil society. And you don't need to look very far. You need to turn on the television and to see a world coming unglued. What the absence of the rule of law looks like. So you're a part of that. 800 years ago this year, the Magna Carta was drafted and as a basis for our legal system. And that was a tremendous gift. It became the basis for our Constitution and our rule of law. And you guys are the tip of that spear. And it's a very serious endeavor. There's lawyer jokes. There's article after article about, is it really worth it to go to law school? Should a law school just be sort of on-the-job training? And let me tell you something. That is absolute nonsense. Being a lawyer is a tremendous, there's a tremendous obligation that goes with that, but it's a tremendous honor. And you need to be grounded in that today. Don't allow other people who have other agendas, that have to do with writing, whether it's the Princeton Review or any of these, everybody likes to put statistics together. The only statistic that matters at the end of the day is that you're going to get a great legal education here. And then it'll be up to you to decide to make a difference in the lives of people. Because I'm going to tell you this, that there will never, ever be, just like there's never going to be enough good people in the world, there'll never be enough lawyers to deliver, good lawyers to deliver legal services to people who really need them. So that should be the measure. When you get up every day, that's what you want to do. You want to be impactful in your chosen endeavor to be a great lawyer and focus on the things that are important. Because if you're here because you think it's a way to a path to a certain lifestyle, or that it's going to give you power and prestige, then I would suggest, and I would suggest mightily, that you do some soul searching around that, because that's not the reason why you want to be a lawyer. So if you'll indulge me, even up until a couple of minutes ago, I was making some adjustments to this, but I hope, I put a lot of thought into it, and so I'll begin. And then I'll do some talking, but then what I'd really like is to spend some time engaging with you guys, take some questions, and get your insights, and if there's any information that I can share. And believe me, I'm in the trenches. Every day, and this has been my whole professional life, I actually live it. People talk about the benefits and the privileges of being a lawyer. That's not what I'm about. I'm literally 24/7, 365, client service, service to the community, trying to live up to high ideals. So, I hope that we can have a dialogue. So I'll talk for a little while, and then we can have a little bit of a dialogue. And let me just say this, I'm sorry that Dean Banks is not here. I drafted this in the sense that he was going to be here, but for his benefit, and I'm going to continue. I know this is going to be taped, so I'll make sure that I address this. Dean Banks, thank you very much for your vision, for your steadfast leadership, your unwavering commitment, and your distinguished service to this university and to our country. As one of your former students, let me thank you for giving me and generations of lawyers a deep passion for the law. Through your years of dedication, you inspire us all to be better lawyers. You remind us all that the highest expression of citizenship, being a great lawyer, can be achieved by devoting ourselves to a lifelong study and practice of law and the relentless pursuit of justice. Thank you. Class of 2018, faculty members, distinguished guests, my fellow members of the bar, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm so proud to be here today to talk with you about our mutual passion for the law and to share my thoughts and reflections on over 20 years in the trenches. I hope that my words will inspire you as you embark upon the next chapter of your life. Being here reminds me of many things, not the least of which is how proud I am to be a graduate of this wonderful university. The College of Law is a manifestation of the great passion and commitment that this community has always had to advancing the rule of law, and I am so proud to call this special place my home. And it is always wonderful to come home. Home to the land of two seasons, winter and the 4th of July. I'm disappointed that we don't have snow. When Professor Harding asked me to consider coming to speak last spring, there were many topics that I considered. As I thought about it more and more and reflected upon current events that exist, all the uncertainty that we've just talked about, the economy, the stock market, the geopolitical concerns, the study of law, the practice of law, the rule of law itself, I quickly concluded that a proper lecture, perhaps on the Dormant Commerce Clause, and yes, it is still relevant. In fact, the Supreme Court took up cert in a tax case that's following up on a decision that they released this summer rejecting Maryland's taxation powers on this very topic. So the Dormant Commerce Clause, as you study constitutional law, it is one of the many fascinating aspects of constitutional law. Or a survey, I'm sure you guys would have been bowled over by, a survey of tax policy in the United States in the 20th century. But these are not appropriate. No, in uncertain times, what all of us need is to focus on and to be reminded of what is fundamental versus what may be the fad of the moment. To focus on what is repeatable, especially in terms of success, repeatable success versus situational success, on what is real and not theoretical, and to focus on what is important and not the distractions that lead good people, good lawyers, to become dispirited and perhaps to lose their way. And then, don't even get me started on the articles that over this past summer and into the spring. Bar scores, New York Times. This was like the New York Times there wasn't enough going on in the world that they had a whole series about, the legal profession and law schools and the value of, whether getting a college education is really worth it, which I think you guys know where I stand on that. Law school is not worth it. Too many law students, too few legal jobs. And let me not forget the Bloomberg Businessweek article that came out in August, and the cover was of this disheveled young man, and the cover article was "Dumber Are Getting Lawyers," right? It really concerns me. It really, really steams me. And as did, by the way, the articles and when I think of Syracuse University, I think of a world-class educational institute, right? Syracuse University, #1 party school, right? Wrong answer. In the same vein, articles about the fall of the once esteemed law firm, Dewey LaBeouf, the criminal trial of 3 of its top executives, all lawyers, right? And prosecutors contend that they orchestrated, accounting fraud. This is Dewey LaBeouf. For those of you who don't know, this is a merger. Dewey Valentine, the former governor, the former, the ran for president, the named partner, Dewey Ballantyne. This firm was as gold standard as you could get. The fact that this firm, because of fraud, because the pursuit, right? As I said to you guys, it's putting certain principles above what it should be. Profits above doing the right thing, right? This is extremely troubling. So, I just say, wow, this is upside down, right? And as professionals about to join the legal profession, I can only imagine what you're thinking. Like, boy, where's the adult supervision? Where is the compass, right? I mean, I carry this every day. My father, when I was a kid, gave me a compass, right? This is what you guys need. You need to know which way points north as you embark upon this most important part of your life. So, I don't know about you, but every day I have reasons to lose faith in people and institutions and even humanity itself. But I'm also reminded of the other side of that coin. And it's not as frequent, but it's an inspiration of wonderful people, those extraordinary people, ordinary people who do extraordinary things. And that's what reaffirms our faith in people, institutions, and humanity. And I don't know if you've ever read any of the works of William Faulkner, Nobel laureate. I think his words reflecting on certain times in his time, that he would say that that man would not only merely endure these times, but would prevail against the challenges of the modern world, because he will return to the old verities and truths of the heart. And he also said that man is immortal because he is alone among creatures, as he has a soul, a spirit capable of compassion, sacrifice, and endurance. You can't think of those words, compassion, sacrifice, endurance, without a whole bunch of other positive adjectives, without thinking specifically about Abraham Lincoln. And I think Abraham Lincoln, and we reflect on all the things that are going on, that's a life lawyers should reflect upon and emulate. In the military, we have a saying that adversity is an introduction to yourself. And Abraham Lincoln is certainly, his life exemplified that. He's generally regarded as the greatest of our presidents. His success as president was particularly interesting because of the crushing amount of personal and professional failure that he had in his life. Consider the following. At the age of 7, his family was forced out of their home, and the young boy had to go to work. At the age of 9, his mother died. At the age of 20, he lost his very important job as a store clerk to provide for his family because the business failed. At the age of 23, he ran for the state legislature, and he lost. He finished 8th out of 13 candidates. Also, at age 25, he lost yet another job. He wanted to go to law school, but he couldn't afford it. At the age of 24, he got a job as a postmaster, but he had the worst efficiency record in the entire state. At the age of 25, his business partner died, leaving him with massive debts and another failing business. And by the end of the year, that business went bankrupt. And what happened next says a lot about his character. He spent the next 17 years repaying that debt, every penny of it. At the age of 25, he also ran for the state legislature, and he won. At the age of 26, he was engaged to be married, and his fiancée died of malaria later that year. At the age of 27, he suffered a total nervous breakdown and was in bed for 6 months. At the age of 28, he became a law partner. At the age of 29, he ran for the Speaker of the Illinois State Legislature and lost. At the age of 30, he was chosen the presidential elector by the convention and was admitted that year to practice before the U.S. Circuit Court. At the age of 31, he argued his first case before the Illinois Supreme Court and was reelected to the legislature, but he tried to become a presidential elector and lost. At the age of 33, he was admitted to practice law before the U.S. District Court. At the age of 34, he ran for Congress and lost. And at the age of 35, he established his own legal practice. At the age of 37, he ran for Congress, and again, he won. At the age of 39, he ran for re-election and lost. At the age of 40, he sought to become a land officer in his state and was rejected. At the age of 45, he ran for the Senate and lost. At the age of 47, he sought the Republican vice presidential nomination and received less than 100 votes and lost. At the age of 49, he ran for the U.S. Senate, and again, he lost. At the age of 51, he was elected President of the United States. The war began 1 month later and ended 5 days before he died. In 1863, at the age of 54, the famous Gettysburg Address was given. But, you know, the speech that we view as one of the most powerful speeches ever was not well received. It was panned by the audience and the organizers, and the Chicago Times called it silly, flat, and dishwatery. Wow. So here's my thought. You know, we're all focused, everyone is focused on resume building, right? What does that mean? So I'll suggest to you that it is in these tough times, it's when you're facing adversity is going to define who you are. And that, you know, it's like a deep-hulled ship. That's what you have to focus on that. Don't do the hard things. I will tell you that in my own experience, and I faced in my own life, I feel a kindred sense to Abraham Lincoln, but it's the hard things. Do you know that does anybody want to take a guess what the lowest grade that I ever received was and what class it was in? Corporate tax. I got a C+. Not because I didn't know the material, but because, you know how exams are. You know, there's certain percentages. Well, you spend too much time on trying to show all the knowledge on the 10-pointers, and you forget the 40-point essay, and then time runs out. This is not a good thing. But again, this gets to a point that I want to make. You know, the temptation to get the case notes and to get the Cliff Notes versions and not do the briefings. You know, you need to not only do the briefings yourself. You are here. This should be like a monastic experience. You are here to become a lawyer, to think like a lawyer, to have the mental fitness that's required, and to have to develop your skill sets. This is the time to do that. And to shortcut it just because you want a good grade. Listen, grades are important, but I'm going to tell you something. That when you're a good lawyer 20 years from now, no one's ever going to ask you, where did you go to law school? What was your grades? What was your score on the MBE? Right? They're not going to ask that. The tree is known by its fruit. So, and that starts today. You know, a house, the most important part of a house is its foundation. This is where you're at today. So Lincoln, his resume was setbacks and failure, and his degree was from the School of Hard Knocks. Lincoln could have given up several times in his lifetime, but he didn't. In that exhausting list, you see that he was a man who was acquainted greatly with uncertainty, struggle, defeat, and sorrow. Just think about that. During his lifetime, he experienced more than most people do in an entire lifetime. And I would suggest to you that all of this calamity on his resume is what prepared him for the unique struggles that he faced. But all of us in our lives are going to face unique struggles, and we need to prepare for it by not shying away from the hard things and doing the hard things. And it's important to know he bounced back after each one of these hurdles to learn something and grow from his experience. You know, for Abraham Lincoln, a self-educated person, enduring defeat was an integral part of his success. And that leads me to a thought. You know, in these uncertain times, listen, you cannot change the wind, right? You can't change it, but you can adjust your sails. And I'm a big fan. My whole life has been about making lemonade out of lemons. And I'm sure you can relate to that. This is a very important skill. Resiliency is an important thing. And I think, you know, a tonic for uncertainty is a relentless work ethic. When faced with adversity or setbacks, most people complain. It's human nature. And then there was Abraham Lincoln. Complaining didn't occur to him, not when he could take the same adversity and cultivate it into something positive. The biggest obstacle that Lincoln had to overcome was his own humble beginnings. He didn't have connections. Humble man, humble beginnings. But you can't compete against a relentless work ethic. He was born into poverty, illiterate parents, no formal education, but he had powerful ambition to achieve, just like you guys do, and a yearning to make the world a better place. The answer for Lincoln was literally to just read and to hit the books and to do the hard things. He never stopped attaining knowledge. And there was a quote that he gave, which I think was interesting. He said, "The mode is very simple. Though laborious and tedious, it is only to get the books and read and study them carefully. Work, work, work is the main thing. A capacity, a taste for reading gives access to whatever has already been discovered by others. It is the key, or one of the keys, to the already solved problems. And not only so, it gives a relish and facility for successfully pursuing unsolved ones." Lincoln focused on what he could control. He studied and he worked hard, and it helped prepare him for a life that he wanted to lead, that of a good lawyer and a amazing public servant. A study of Lincoln reveals that he preferred to really be an in-depth thinker. And he realized that the world's greatest achievers were totally immersed in their respective subjects. And so he undertook the study of law on his own, right? You've got the benefit. We're here. You talk about perspective. This is a guy who, by candlelight, was reading, legal text and cases, and so how lucky are we to be here today, 21st century? We've got all this. This is amazing. This guy had, paper and a candle, and he knew that the profession, the legal profession, offered him a chance to contribute to the greater good. For Lincoln, his vocation, the law, became a way to make a difference. He showed tremendous discipline, ambition, initiative, and an honesty. We all know that about him. The discipline required to educate himself gave Lincoln the foundation to succeed. He built on his education with ambition. And he got the nickname Honest Abe for a reason. He earned it. And that's a very important thing. Listen, your reputation, every day we have to make choices. Every day people come to me. There's great pressures, financial pressures, whatever the pressures are, to do the right thing. And I'm going to tell you that your reputation is built slowly, brick by brick, over many years. And that same reputation can be ruined by one bad decision, one bad choice that you make. You have to jealously guard it. And that's one thing about when you look at Lincoln's life. His honesty, I can't think of a more important attribute that any person, certainly a lawyer, should have. And as he would say, he resolved to be honest in all events. In your judgment, if you cannot be an honest lawyer, resolve to be honest without being a lawyer. So he was very mindful of this, and he knew that your reputation is at the end of the day, that's all you have. Modesty and humility. Lincoln was, given that he had all the accolades, he had, as a prominent prairie lawyer, as the President of the United States, he never forgot where he came from. He never felt himself better, that his situation, that his standing in life made him superior to anyone. And I'll suggest to you that that's a very important attribute to be not only a good human being, but to be a good lawyer, is to be able to relate to your clients, to have a humility and a modesty about yourself, especially in an age when everything is self-promotion, shameless self-promotion, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the time. And I'll just tell you this, that authenticity doesn't need a communications department, right? A tree is known by its fruit. So you focus on doing the right things, and all those other things will take care of themselves. Don't be proud. Acknowledge your weaknesses and seek to remedy them. When you look at Abraham Lincoln, obviously his lack of education, I think, created, there was a, I think I'll refer to it as the gift of insecurity, right? The most dangerous people are people who think they know it all. People who, and again, as a lawyer, as an advisor, as a counselor, we need to always remember where our competency ends and another's begins, because it's not just because you don't want to be sued for malpractice, but you have to know where you're in the deep water. And so, don't be proud and acknowledge your weaknesses means that you need to make sure to get advice and counsel. There's far more that we don't know than we know. And Lincoln demonstrated this. He was secure enough to admit when he didn't know. He never let his pride get the best of him. For example, he asked his Secretary of State and very tough rival, William Seward, who was a former New York State governor and U.S. senator, to tutor him in the areas of government and politics. And it was probably very humiliating because Seward was a self-promoter. He lauded his his education and his credentials. But despite that, and it probably was a humbling experience for Lincoln, he still did it, and it made him a better person. So the lesson there is to always make sure that you reach out. Teamwork is important. No person is an island. And certainly if you're going to be a great lawyer, you need to make sure that you do that. Effective communication and advocacy, authenticity and humor. Through his hundreds of public speeches, uncanny storytelling ability, and authorship of thousands of letters, Abraham Lincoln mastered the art of effective communication, which is the heart and soul of being a good lawyer and advocate. Reflecting on what effective communication was, Lincoln gave the following advice to his law partner, William Herndon. Don't shoot too high, aim lower, and the common people will understand you. They are the ones you want to reach. At least they are the ones you ought to reach. The educated and refined people will understand you anyway. If you aim too high, your ideas will go over the heads of the masses and only hit those who need no hitting. So, again, summarize that, know your audience. Advocate to that audience. His humor, again, the practice of law, there was I would suggest, if you haven't become an American Bar Association member, student member, the price even to get the American Bar Association monthly journal is great. There's many good articles. There was one that came out, I think it was the August edition, but the cover was stress, right? There was about how the legal profession is very stressful. No, there's no two ways about it. It is. But it's, a lot of that can be self-generated. So healthy ways of dealing with stress. And I would suggest that keeping things in perspective and having humor is an important way to combat stress. And certainly Lincoln knew that, and he laced that in with his practice. Thorough, exhaustive preparation. Lincoln prepared exhaustively for whether he was going to court, or whether it was a speech or a debate. He wrote out his addresses, made corrections, and read them aloud. He was a stickler about revisions, and his aides would say that it was never considered finished until it either was published or unless the speech was given. He was continually refining. As an example of his thorough preparation, consider the 7 debates, those famous debates with Stephen Douglas. And Douglas, a tough cookie himself, and probably one of the finest orators in history, it reflected and said that Lincoln was the most difficult and dangerous opponent that he'd ever met because of his preparation and his work ethic. And his stepmother said of him that Abe had a need to grasp fully what he had read or learned. He must understand everything. So this is, you can see, these are character traits. And these are important things, that common theme of preparation, attention to detail, thorough preparation, very important as you embark upon the study of law. Another thing, a short pencil. I describe it as the short pencil. It's better to have a short pencil than a short memory. And it certainly goes a long way to avoid misunderstandings. As a lawyer, giving advice can get us, is a good thing, but it also can get you in trouble, especially if people want verbal advice. People will call you and say, I need an answer, what do you think? And you have to always qualify it, and because you never know if the words that you're saying are the words that are being received on the other end. And so you have to be very careful about this. And so, you know, Abraham Lincoln, what his practice was, to guarantee clarity of communications, Lincoln was careful to script out what he was going to say, and then he always followed up his verbal or oral directives with a note or a memo that he would send to the counterparty, so that there was not any misunderstanding, or if there was, it would be clarified. So it's just another, as I have to go back in time to get inspiration. And as I've looked at Lincoln's life, there's so many really, you know, when you look at Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Successful People, you can read his book. I'm sure that's wonderful. But if you study Abraham Lincoln, you see that's the example of all of his habits. You know, what a life well lived. You know, so many lessons here in perseverance, initiative, problem solving, and so, you know, we look at it and we say, you know, how do we distill these? And so I've come up with a list, maybe of 9, 10 things, you know, that I would suggest are Lincoln's 10 standing orders for aspiring lawyers. Number 1 is being doggedly persistent and work very hard. Number 2 is thoughts inspire actions, and how you think is everything. So always be positive. Number 3, have a clear view of what your objectives are, because if you don't know where you're going, you won't get there. Take action. You know, goals are nothing without action. The law, number 5, the law is a lifelong endeavor. Never stop learning. You can never have enough tools for your toolbox or arrows for your quiver. Always. Just because you graduate from here doesn't mean that that's when it stops. Every day, to remain relevant, you have to keep learning and staying on top of things. You know, acquiring new skill sets, even if they're beyond the law. The surest way to make sure that you are relevant and have marketability in the marketplace is to have relevant skill sets. So I would say that lifelong learning and education are a sure way to thrive in the 21st century. And Horace Greeley, who was also a contemporary of Abraham Lincoln, once said of him that there was probably no year in his life when he was not wiser, cooler, and better a man than he had been the year preceding. So he realized that. Every year, doesn't matter, whatever, you know, wherever you are in the notch, you know, it doesn't end. It's a marathon. It's not a 100-yard dash. Number 6, learn to analyze details. Very important. Number 7, focus your resources, particularly your time, because it is your most limited resource. Don't let other people distract you. Have focus. Number 8, don't be afraid to innovate and be different. You know, following the herd is the easiest way to mediocrity. And I'm sure that for Lincoln, when you look at, he was unique. He was authentic. And, you know, today, it's a shame that we all feel that we have, you know, conformity is important. Don't get me wrong on this. You know, conformity is important. But be who you are. Don't try to be somebody else, because that's going to lead to unhappiness. Be authentic. Be true to yourself. And overcome the notion, you know, there's an old saying that, you know, overcome the notion that you have to be regular because it robs you of the opportunity to be extraordinary. Those are important words. And, you know, Ralph Waldo Emerson, I think, put it best. To be authentic in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is a greatest achievement. Number 9, always lead and never manage. Be a leader, right? People don't want to be managed. I think the greatest failing of lawyers is that they view themselves as a subject matter expert, or I'm a one-person show, and I'm going to tell you that will lead to a lot of problems, because you need to be a force multiplier, right? Right now, in this part of your career, you're gathering skills. You're going to become tactically and technically proficient. But at some point, either when you're a senior lawyer and you're responsible for junior lawyers, or you're running a practice, the idea is to make more of you, right? And a lot of people, they don't want to give away knowledge. They feel that it's competitive. Be a leader, right? When you give, you're going to get much more in return, believe me. And that's another problem. When I was reading this article about lawyer stress, if I was able to look under the hood of many of those cases, I'll bet you that it's because people don't share work, they don't make the investment in other people, because it's too hard to train someone. I don't have the time. Make the investments. Be a leader. Be a leader. Very important thing. And then number 10, take responsibility, be honest, and be dependable. And draw your inspiration from Abraham Lincoln. They didn't call him Honest Abe for no reason. And I will also suggest that if you don't do number 10, then the other 9 don't matter. Okay, so I'm about to wrap up here. So let me just say this. In a blink of an eye, you will be joining us beyond these walls of this campus. And when you do, there will be, as now, many unsolved problems. And I hope that when you leave the College of Law, that you will do so with a feeling of obligation to make a difference, to be an impact player in the world of law. You can be a force multiplier to your clients for sure, but also to enrich the communities that you live in. Lady Justice needs you. She needs your help and support for the years to come. America needs to be reintroduced to itself by being introduced to its guardians of liberty and justice, its keepers of the law, its great lawyers. The study and practice of law are at times exhausting, so don't just go through the motions here or when you go into practice. We need your idealism. We need your clarity of purpose. Lincoln achieved a goal he had set out for himself in life. And he had said that I have an irrepressible desire to live until I can be assured that the world is a better place for me having been in it. How about you? There's an old saying that each generation looks further down the road than the one that preceded it. And I just want to say that, as I said, this is the 800th year of the Magna Carta. You guys are the tip of the spear of the rule of law. So please don't forget that. So in closing, on this beautiful central New York afternoon, as we come together to help guide you in your journey, I am reminded of an inspirational piece of music from the early 20th century composer Aaron Copland. His fanfare for the common man manifests so perfectly in music what I believe is one of the basic truths of America, that ordinary people who have done extraordinary things have single-handedly changed the course of humankind for the better. That is who Abraham Lincoln was, for sure. And that is who our nation's great lawyers have always been, and that is who you are. Don't forget it. It is that spirit that we evoke today, the spirit of those who tirelessly seek justice and toil in the hot fields known as the practice of law. This is our call to action, my dear friends. By continuing this work, we honor our kindred spirits from the past, like Abraham Lincoln, those who gave us the gift of the rule of law. From the drafters of the Magna Carta to the framers of our Constitution, all the justices, the judges, practitioners, great lawyers all, we take our cue. It is now with us, it is our awesome responsibility to ensure that Lady Justice's scales remain balanced, that her blindfold remains secure, and that her sword remains sharp and at the ready. I wish you guys great luck, and I thank you very much for this opportunity to come and address you today. Thank you.